Today in the episode we talked to Javert from Inscape Digital about everything hit film. What's up guys, Elliot here and welcome back to the third ever episode of the Venom Films podcast. And in today's video I'm joined by Javert from Inscape Digital.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
So I think we're just going to get straight on to the questions. So the first question is, how did you get into filmmaking?
So let me think. The first thing that comes to mind is I saw a YouTube video that was a fan-made lightsaber fight, and it was done by just a couple of teenagers, and I saw it when I was like 12 or 13, and I thought, why can't I do that? These guys are maybe 2-3 years older than me, and I want to be able to do the effects that they do. So that's when I started looking into filmmaking and VFX software.
Yeah, when did you discover hit film? Was that like soon after you started, or was it like quite a while before you discovered hit film?
Yeah, hit film came out in 2011. I would say that's probably 7 months or so after I first started filmmaking. I was on vacation with my family actually when I kind of came across it on the internet. I don't quite remember how. I was just looking at visual effects software and it just popped up, and I thought, you know what, that looks cool. So I tried the demo, and here I am.
Yeah. What version of hit film was that? Was that the original one?
Yeah, the first one, Hit Film Ultimate. I used the demo for, I think, probably a year, and then eventually I upgraded to the full version. So the first few tutorials I have are in the demo mode.
Yeah. Was that what inspired you to start your YouTube channel then? Was that like a progression from starting making films?
I first downloaded Hit Film in, I think, June of 2011, and I uploaded my first video in November of 2011. So it was just a few months of learning it, and I figured I'd try to help people with tutorials.
Yeah. So if you didn't know, Inscape Digital actually had an internship actually at the Hit Film headquarters in Norwich, I believe it is. So what was that like? How did you get into contact with them, and how did you start like communicating with Hit Film?
Yeah, so talks about the internship began in August of 2016. So it was almost a full year before I actually went over there. They had arranged a Skype to kind of talk about just what I was doing with the YouTube channel, like the tutorials that I was making. It wasn't to bring up the idea of the internship, but at the end, I literally just asked, could I have an internship? Is that something that you do? And they said, yeah, we'll look into it. So over the course of the next few months, they did a really good job of planning it out, telling me what I needed to do, all the paperwork, all the scheduling, and everything was laid out perfectly. So by the time I got there, everything was fantastic. It was exactly what I expected
because at the time you were like one of the first people in the kind of the hit film kind of tutorial thing, weren't you, within the actual hit film channel? Were you like one of the only channels doing it at the time?
There have been 2 or 3 channels that were uploading tutorials along the same time I was at the very beginning, but they kind of tapered off, went into other things. So I kind of am, one of the original, I think, tutorial makers since like the very, very beginning.
Yeah, so going back to internship, what did you actually do when you got to England? Like, how long were you there for? And, like, give us a flavour of what you did.
Yeah, so I was there for 2 months. The first week after I got there was mostly paperwork, figuring out how the office works, any sort of guidelines, safety guidelines, stuff like that. Applying for bank accounts so that I could get paid and stuff like that. The first month was mostly behind the scenes stuff. I didn't appear on the channel until, I think, July. So it was mostly working on things like images for the website, stuff that didn't directly have my name attached to it, but still helping out the marketing team with that. In July is when I uploaded the first tutorial, which was the day for night. And then from then I just had a weekly tutorial, kind of just like what I do now or back then, just a tutorial every week.
What's it like working in the office? Like, what's the kind of like, what's the kind of like vibe in the office?
Everyone is super friendly. We would go out to lunch every day, and everybody would come back and eat in one room, which was different than most office workspaces. But for the most part, it's everyone's kind of close together. There's 2 rooms, so there's the software people who are on one side, and then the other side is kind of the marketing and sales. But I think they're rearranging the office the last time I heard, so it might be different. In terms of the people, everyone is super friendly. They're just like that you see on the channel. Ollie is bouncy and super friendly, and Kirsty's all smiles, and it was really nice to be there.
Yeah, I'm wondering how many people actually work at Hit Film, because you only see like the people who do the tutorials, like Ollie and stuff. Are they actually quite a lot of other people behind the scenes working on the software and stuff for them?
Yeah, so there's, I think, 6 software developers, and total at FX Home, I think it's about 14 or 15 people.
Yeah, because they have that photo editing software as well. Is that like the green
The photo key.
Photo, yeah.
Yeah. They're all the same team, so we all work on HitFilm and photo key, but yeah, 14 or 15 people total.
So when you were doing your internship, what were you doing on the internship? Was it more like, were you doing the kind of like marketing side, that kind of thing, or were you doing the software side?
Technically, I was the marketing department. That was my main focus, so any sort of promotional videos or pictures that had to go out, proofreading newsletters, I did that. I did sit in on, I think it was bi-weekly software development meetings, so I did get to sit down with them and watch as they discussed things that they were working on, features that were going in, fixes. So I got to see that side of it. I didn't have too much experience with the coding, like actual writing HitFilm, but I did get to see them brainstorming, and that was cool.
So is the tutorials to do? Is that on the marketing side of the site? The tutorials?
Yeah, I reported to Kirsty for that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when they're doing these, like, how did they go about getting tutorials? Would they just sit there brainstorming ideas for like doing the tutorials, or did they like have requests or something?
We do have bi-weekly planning meetings, so we sit down and look at the schedule that we have and look at the next coming weeks and think, okay, what movies are coming out, what TV shows are coming out, what can we do tutorial-wise that will relate to that? Otherwise, we also have a big request sheet, so whenever someone makes a request on YouTube or Twitter, we write it down. So we can refer back to that list if we run out of ideas, but everything is planned out and everything is written.
You were there for the skydiving thing when they skydived out of the planes. How was that experience?
I actually almost missed that because we were scheduled to film on August 5th, and I think my original leaving date was the 2nd. So I actually almost missed the whole filming of that. So they told me it was going to be taking place on the 5th, so I moved my flight, and luckily I was able to be there on set with them. And that was a very new experience for me. I've never been on a film set with, these professional Emmy award-winning people. And I was one of the soldiers, so it was a very dynamic environment because when you're in front of the camera, it's like, okay, get your positions, action, play out the scene, and then do it again, one after the other. And then when you're not filming, you're just kind of waiting for like 20 minutes while they set up the equipment and all that stuff. So it was really fast paced, and it was cool to see everyone because they knew exactly what they were doing, and I was just kind of along for the ride.
So what is the partnership between, is it Ember Studios and HitFilm? How do they, because Ember Studios is like, were they filming it for them?
Ember Films, yeah. They provided all the camera equipment, all the lights, everything that we needed. I think HitFilm was more of a producer, like the one putting it together. And we hired Ember to actually film it for us, and they also did some of the editing.
So what was your, like, if you put this trip together, what was the thing you most enjoyed the most there?
I would say how well I fit into everything. Like I expected everything to be different, but I would say within a month or so, I just found myself going along with the flow. Like it all just went really well together. Everything, Norwich, the coworkers, the work itself, it all just came together really nicely. So I don't have one specific thing, but just everything worked out really well, I think was my favorite part.
Yeah, how did you enjoy, like, the actual, like, experience of going to a different country? Who did you stay with? Like, did you stay with one of the producers or, like, people who worked for FX?
Yeah, I stayed with Josh Davies. And I've never been to another country by myself before, so that was fun. The flight was overnight, which was probably the worst part of the whole thing, to be honest. I landed in Amsterdam, and then I flew to Norwich from there. But yeah, traveling was a little bit nerve-wracking, but, just read the signs and make sure you're on time, and that's pretty much all you need to do.
So you're planning on doing something like this, kind of going into, like, for, like, the future, what you wanted to do in the future? You wanted to do, like, tutorials, be a filmmaker, or do you want to do, like, work for, like, somewhere like FX Home?
The future, since I got back, has been in progress. I can't be too specific about it, but I am out of university. I am needing a full-time job. So for the past few months, I've been doing the paperwork to get that settled.
Yeah. So I'm going to go move back over to your YouTube channel. Where did you get your inspiration for your tutorials on your Inscape Digital YouTube channel?
For the most part, I think it's two things. Either I see an effect in a movie or TV show that I like and I want to recreate, or I see a need for a tutorial and try to fill it. So I see people asking for the puppet tool effect over and over. So I do a tutorial on that. But for the most part, I would say it's recreating things that I see.
Yeah, so when you are going into doing these tutorials, do you like sit down for a few hours beforehand working out the puppet tools so then you know what to do beforehand?
For the most part, yeah. If it's a new effect like the puppet tool, yeah, I will take some time to learn it. But if it's a recreation of effect, I can pretty much just start and work my way through and have like a draft within a couple hours.
Yeah, I suppose that's one of the things. Once, because the HitFilm is quite like an easy software. Once you know like the basics, it's quite easy to like work stuff out for yourself once you know the basics.
Yeah, it's been cool to over the years kind of see myself become familiar with it. It's an internal thing, so I can't really demonstrate it, but just knowing what I have to do in order to get an effect done is something that has developed over time.
Yeah, it almost becomes natural to you, doesn't it? Like, you know, like, oh, if you just do that and that kind of effect.
Yeah, exactly. Establishing your workflow and everything to make it, second nature.
So another thing you did, if you've not seen Inscape Digital before, you'll know they actually have a website where you can get like presets and stuff on it. How did you go around starting that website and like the work that went into starting that website?
The website was to kind of the first primary goal of it was to provide project files, because I noticed that's something that people like to have. So that was the first thing I wanted it to do. Eventually, I started writing blog posts about my work in visual effects. And then, similar to tutorials, I saw a need for a template sort of repository, people asking for a place to share what they had made. So that's how I got the idea for the preset marketplace.
Yeah, because I think that's quite a new idea. I'd never seen it before, so I've never seen a preset marketplace before. And I think that's one of the rather cool things about HitFilm. There's actually there's quite a big community around HitFilm, even though it's not the biggest community, not like After Effects, but the community is very strong, and like they all will help each other to like, because they want more people to learn about the software, don't they?
Yeah, there was a template repository in the very early days of HitFilm, but since there weren't nearly as many people, it didn't take off. But now I started mine when HitFilm 4 I think came out, so there was a lot more people willing to contribute to it.
Yeah. So have you got any plans for future films, or are you just gonna like see where the future holds, or like are you gonna do some more films on your YouTube channel or anything like that?
My YouTube channel will probably decrease in content, how often I post it, just because I'm an adult now technically. I'm gonna have to get a full-time job. But I think I'm gonna keep it open definitely for any sort of visual effects test or any tutorial that I see needs filling.
Yeah, I suppose that's rather cool, because like if you go back to your old videos, you can really see like a transformation from when you were just like 12, 13, you were just doing like simple effects, until now we're doing like advanced like particles and puppet things. I think that's one of the cool things to see about your YouTube channel, is the kind of like the transformation you've come from like being like just like doing like cool like cloning effects until like doing massive particle effects and actually going to the developers of the software that you're using in the end.
Oh yeah, they're awful, those early videos. It's fun to go back and look at them though, to see all the things that I didn't know at that time, like why didn't I EQ the audio, or why didn't I focus the camera or something like that, or why am I going so fast? That's another one. But yeah, it's cool to go back and see how far you've come.
So have you got any like tips for people who want to maybe start their own like tutorial channel? Have you got any tips for them on how to make tutorials that people actually learn from and remember from?
I think the most important two of the most important things that I've learned is to, number one, fill a need. Like, I understand that you want to make things for your own, but if you want to grow an audience, you have to make things that people want to see. And then the second thing is to go slow, especially if you're making tutorials. You have to remember that when people watch your videos, they're watching it for the first time. So if they can't absorb the information, they won't stick around.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things. I watch a lot of tutorial channels, so now they just rush through it really quickly just to get to the end of the tutorial. But sometimes you need to, because when you're recording it, it doesn't seem like you're doing it quick. But like when you listen to it back and other people watch it, it feels really quick. So that's one of the things. You just need to, when you're about to record, take a step back and just, relax and like take a deep breath before you start recording.
Yeah, going slowly, it gives people confidence in you. Going fast isn't going to help anyone. It might sound better if you do it because you're nervous or whatever, but just taking the time and slowing down and using periods helps not only yourself, but other people.
Yes. Okay, so I think that has done it for today's podcast. I'll leave a link in the description to Inscape Digital. Definitely go and check that out for like more advanced tutorials, I'd say, like particle simulations and that kind of thing, which is like the really gritty stuff of like VFX, which I find really interesting. So I'll leave a link to channel to that in the description. Go and check out part 2 where I interviewed Film Empire, and until next time, bye.